Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be demoing and reviewing a brand new product from WESTMAN Atelier. This is their new Vital Skincare Complexion Drops product. I'm going to be applying this to my face and showing you how it works. I'll also show you how it plays with the other WESTMAN Atelier complexion product, their Vital Skin Foundation Stick, as well as their powder that they've come out with recently. I'll be sharing my thoughts on this product and the formula. So if you'd like to see all of that, just keep on watching. Today is my second time wearing these complexion drops. I like to think of these as a skin tint. I feel like that's really the type of product that this is. It's quite a light coverage. And I'm just going to start out by saying this is kind of a lukewarm review of this product. I am not completely in love with this yet, but as I said, it's only my second time trying it. And there are a couple things going on that I think are also playing into my experience of this product. So the main one, I guess, is that I'm not having a very good skin day. I'm not having a very good few skin days. So yesterday and today, the only times I've worn this, I haven't been happy with the state of my skin in general. So that's obviously really going to affect how I feel about an overall complexion product like this. So that's one thing. I'm just in a state where I'm not happy with my skin. I'm dealing with a lot of redness and irritation, and it's just not in its best state. Then the other thing to keep in mind is that it's very rare for me to fall in love with an overall complexion product from the first one or two tries anyway. It often takes quite a while for me to really get used to a product, really see what it's doing for my skin, how it's working with all types of different products, how it's wearing throughout different, types of weather, different temperatures, and different states of my skin as it fluctuates over time. A good example of that is even the other WESTMAN Atelier foundation, their foundation stick. That's one of my all-time favorite complexion products now. I've gone through 2 whole tubes of it, which is really unheard of for me to go through a whole foundation, but that's a product that I really love. I've been using it so much recently as well. I've been using it all summer, and it's become a real staple and a real go-to product for me. But when I first tried it out, I wasn't really blown away with it. I didn't think there was anything exceptionally special about it. But as time went on and I used it more, I really came to fall in love with the product. So just because I'm not raving about this new one now doesn't mean that I won't be in the future. It's going to take more testing, but I just want to share my thoughts on it now because I know it is coming to a number of retailers on September 1st. So I wanted to get my review and thoughts out before that at least. So if you're interested in the product and buying it from some of their other retailers, you can have my thoughts on it. So let's get into the application. I'm going to show you now myself applying this. I ended up using 3 drops of this, but I just did 1 drop at a time. So I started with 1 drop on the back of my hand and applied it all over my face. Today, for applying this product, I used the WESTMAN Atelier blender brush. They have brought out a new liquid blender brush to go with this product, but I didn't purchase it. I'm very happy with my original blender brush, and it's actually my favorite brush for applying this type of a product. Those thin, kind of almost oily textured skin tints, I find that this brush works exceptionally well with those types of products, so I really didn't think it was necessary to get the new liquid blender brush. Just applied 1 drop at a time, kind of building as I went along, using the 3rd drop to really add coverage where I wanted the most. And at that point, I switched over to a smaller brush, another one that is also 100% synthetic, the Real Techniques setting brush, which is my favorite brush for really quickly applying, again, those kind of thinner types of products, but I also love it for more creamy products. I use that Real Techniques brush for my WESTMAN Atelier foundation stick as well, because I just find it gives a good balance between a kind of targeted application because it's not too big. You can get under the eyes with it and into smaller areas, but it's also not so small that it's going to take forever to apply and blend out the product. As I said, I feel these complexion drops give a fairly light coverage. My opinion may change on that as time goes on. When I'm having better skin days, I might find that it looks like it's giving more coverage, but where my skin is right now with a lot of redness and irritation, I found it was a light coverage, and I certainly didn't feel comfortable today just wearing the complexion drop. So I went in and supplemented and added coverage and used the foundation stick as a bit of a concealer today, and that worked really well. It built really nicely on top of the complexion drops, but I did find that I needed to use quite a bit of powder to set it all down just because my skin was feeling, quite wet. Both the drops and the stick are oil-based, so there's a lot of emolliency going on with these products. I think that in the winter time especially, I'm going to really appreciate this tint, but I'm going through a little bit more of a kind of oily skin phase. I'm usually very dry, but I've just been a little bit more oily lately. And also the weather is very humid and damp. And so that means my skin is just generally a little bit more hydrated anyway. But I also found that the powder played really nicely on top of these products. It set everything down, not completely dry. I don't like to use too much powder, but I used enough just to kind of feel like everything was pretty secure there and is not going to slip around. And that powder does such a beautiful job of blurring the skin that I think it worked really nicely with these kind of dewier, oilier products. I did the rest of my makeup off camera using mostly Westman Atelier. I used a Dior palette for my eyes, but I think the rest of what I used on my face was from Westman Atelier. Everything will be listed below that I use. And again, I felt like everything applied quite nicely over top of my Westman Atelier base, which you would hope, especially considering that I used mostly products all from the same brand. But I was happy that I had set my whole face with the powder because I felt like if I hadn't done that, things might have been kind of slipping around a little bit because I used the cream contour, I used a cream blush, and all of those creams together on a day when everything is quite humid and damp. The makeup I'm using is quite oily. I think it might have been a little bit of a mess, but everything worked out really nicely with the addition of the powder, which is part of the reason I'm so happy that Westman Atelier did bring out that powder. I think it's a great product, and I think it's kind of an essential product in their line. It helps everything else to perform even better and work better together. So I guess those are my main thoughts on the formula. Again, I feel like I really have to explore this product more, but I wanted to share what I could so far. I'd like to get into a couple of comparisons with this. So I got the shade Atelier 0, which in the range of the complexion drops is described as having yellow undertones. And interestingly, in their foundation stick range, Atelier 0 is described as having gentle rose undertones, although I do find it to actually lean more toward the yellow side, so I find that gentle rose description quite strange. But first, let's compare these complexion drops to the product that it reminded me most of, which is this Ritual Defy Luminous Elixir 3-drop foundation. So I think even in the amount of product that you use, I think 3 drops of either of these products is the perfect amount. And I also feel like both are really spreadable and blendable. They're both very liquidy formulas with a lot of oils in them. And so they behave quite similarly on the skin in terms of how they blend out. The difference I find, or at least so far that I've found, is that I get more coverage with the Ritual Defy one. I find that the Ritual Defy has a more perfecting effect on my complexion. Every time I wear this, I'm kind of blown away by how good my skin looks. It looks very skin-like in finish, but it just gives this perfected quality that really nothing else that I have gives. So at this stage, I do prefer the Ritual Defy one. I don't think this is available yet as a permanent product from Ritual Defy. This was a lab sample that I purchased from them. But if you were wanting to get just one of this type of product, at this point, I would recommend waiting for the Ritual Defy unless you have an issue with essential oil smells, because the Ritual Defy has strong essential oil scent to it. So here are the 2 products. This one is the Westman Atelier in Atelier 0. You can see the yellowness there. And then the Ritual Defy is in the shade NYX, which is the lightest shade in the Ritual Defy range and is more of a neutral tone. You can see it's also lighter. I haven't been wearing the Ritual Defy over the summer because it's just a little bit too light for me these days. But as soon as the seasons change and my fake tan starts to fade away, I'm gonna be right back into the Ritual Defy because I love it so much. But I do like the shade of the Westman Atelier as well, and I think it works well for my skin tone. My skin is neutral, but leaning a little bit more toward the kind of yellow warm side. And I think that Atelier 0 is a good shade for me in the summertime. It'll be interesting to see how it works in the wintertime. It's quite lightly pigmented, so you can kind of get away with playing around with your shade a little bit more, I think, as long as the undertones are good. So we'll have to see when my skin is a lot paler how this shade is going to work, but for now in the summertime, it's quite a good shade for me. So that's those two, and now I'm going to bring in my Westman Atelier foundation sticks. And here we have the Westman Atelier drops still in Atelier 0. Then this is Atelier 0 in the stick foundation. I think those shades are pretty similar. And then here we have Atelier N, which is described as a more neutral tone, but I find it actually looks rosier than the rest of these ones here, and it is a little bit lighter than the other two shades that we have here. The formulas of the two Westman Atelier products are obviously very different. The format is extremely different, with a very liquid and a very solid form, and the level of coverage is very different as well, with the stick being quite high coverage. A little bit goes a very long way with this one, and you're really just getting a light kind of overall tint to the skin with this product. As far as the finish of the complexion drops, I do find them to be quite dewy, which is what they are intended to be. Again, I will be interested to see how they perform when my skin is very dry in the wintertime. But as of now, when my skin it's basically normal, but I'm just having a couple of slightly oilier days, it's very dewy and almost kind of slick on the skin. This doesn't have added fragrance. It doesn't have a really strong discernible scent, but I can smell the oils in it. It's weird, but to me it smells like microwave popcorn, like the scent of the butter that's in that, but it's not very strong and it doesn't linger, so I don't want that to put anyone off. It's not an added fragrance. It's just obviously the smell of the ingredients that are actually in this foundation. It has a lot of oils in it, so I guess it kind of makes sense that it would remind me of that smell. So I think that's really all I have to say about this right now. I'm still kind of lukewarm about it. It's going to take a lot more testing for me to kind of finalize my thoughts on this, but I will be sure to share those thoughts with you once I've had a chance to do that. So I will be doing an updates video at some point in the future where I can share more about this. But for now, I'm happy with it, but not overly excited. So take that as you will. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. I always love to see those. If you'd like to see more from me and you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I would love for you to do so. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.